interestingly, that the cap rates are not always it's hard to justify them in a lot of circumstances. So what that has led us to lead to say, hey, how can we add value even with current reality? And so even though we started working on layers, call it half a year to a year ago, it actually shows very beneficial, because now when we go into a property, we don't necessarily buy a lot of the value add plays that are being pitched right now, but right. It is the value add that we've created, and it took a significant investment. So lots of people can try and replicate it, but to actually do it and to execute on it takes a big investment. And so that's kind of more where we're looking to add our value right now at this point.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I'm your host, Yona Weiss. As always, haven't changed yet. Still me. And with me today, special guest, Daniel Farber, CEO of HLC Equity, a great company. Love to hear a little more about it. Daniel, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me here.
It's my pleasure. This is fun. For me, this is what I do all day. This is
I was just thinking as you were doing the intro, it must get tiring at some point to do so many podcasts, but you can feel the energy that you get, and it seems like you never get worn down. So
never. Yeah. I love this. If I could do this, I've debated putting out like daily episodes, just like multiple times a day. I haven't figured out the workload yet, how to really do that. But no, I enjoy this. Literally, I would not be doing this if I didn't love it. And I think to me, I heard once from a good friend of mine, Ellie Shine, who said in the name of Jordan Harbinger, who's one of the most famous podcasters in the world, right? Built a name for himself, multi-million-dollar business, that he said, and really, Ellie, a friend of mine, mentioned this to me when I was thinking of starting Weiss Advice. And he told me, listen, do not start a podcast unless you love it, unless you really enjoy it, unless you love doing it. Otherwise, don't start it. If you're doing it for any other reason, you want to have a good job, you want to do it for monetary reasons, you want to do it for fame, for this, that, don't do it. Those things will come if you're good and you love it. Then those things are going to come. Otherwise, so that for me, that's always been the starting point.
Yeah, that's great advice, and it's worked out well for you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We can end it right here. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. A little background, just so you guys know. Daniel, like I said, is the CEO of HLC Equity. It's a real estate investment company. They own hundreds of millions in multifamily properties and real estate investment management. Also, a property management company that they launched. He will tell us a little more about how they came to be. And what they're all about. But, he's also the founding sponsor, together with his wife, of PropTech 360, which is a PropTech, a real estate platform. And they have a global summit. I actually attended a couple years back in Israel. Really great platform, bringing together amazing people, amazing products, amazing, things in the PropTech space, which is incredible as well. So Daniel, tell me a little bit how, you grew up around real estate, right? It was something you've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I haven't because, HLC, it is a multi-generational real estate investment company, but it was never something that it wasn't a given that I was going to be in the real estate business, or that anybody else for that matter was going to be in the real estate business. And just, sometimes things align. I mean, when I was in college, I was on track to become either a journalist or a diplomat, right? So it's one of these things, like, who knows where life is going to take you. And so eventually that is what happened. And I've always had an interest in real estate, in the sense of, you see beautiful buildings and you wonder how they get put together and how people interact in them and how they interface with the built environment and so forth, has always fascinated me. But I never knew that I was going to be full thrown into real estate. But my personal journey of how I got there is probably going to be more than a half an hour. So I don't know that we're going to go into that, but I can quickly kind of run through HLC, and we're like we said, a multi-generational real estate investment company. Used to be very focused in the commercial, retail world, neighborhood shopping centers, what we call net lease assets, and so forth, still hold a certain portfolio in that space. But over the last several years, we've also gotten much more involved in multifamily, and so we now have some focus markets where we're looking to build up, further portfolio in multifamily. Dallas, Denver. We were doing a little bit in New York. That's a little bit less interesting right now. Pittsburgh, some other growth markets, southern state growth markets as well. And while we're managing these properties, we also have created a innovative and also lucrative property management model that is kind of out of the box and has benefited our investments. And now we also are able to offer it to other owners to benefit them as well. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of what we're up to.
All right, awesome. Well, so when you say a lucrative property management model that now you're doing for your own investments and for others as well,
right?
What is that about? How did you come up with that, and how is it benefiting others as well?
Sure. So HLC Equity is our investment arm, and we go in and we buy our real estate through HLC Equity. And while we're owning these communities, we property manage our own communities, we were always thinking there's got to be a different model. I mean, property management and owning, multifamily communities has been around for so long. There's got to be something better that we can do. And we have always been very community focused. And we thought it was very interesting that we own these communities. So we also said, how can we take these communities that we own and really enhance the community just by using technology and some general operational efficiencies. So, we built a brand because we felt that there was a space that, in the market for a consumer-centric brand. So our brand is Layers, and we created a whole operating model around it where we leverage technology to enhance the community. But on top of that, we also have an offering called serviced apartments. So we basically go into traditional multifamily investments, but we are able to offer a hybrid between conventional apartments and serviced apartments. And on the serviced apartments, we're able to, basically compete with extended stay hotels, but we're doing long-term leases. Mm-hmm. So, it's highly profitable on a unit economic basis, and that benefits our investments. And so now when we look at investments, we look at it, and that's what I mean lucrative.
Sure.
We have the benefits of everything that we've built in terms of community, content, technology, but then we also have this service offering, which there's a real demand. So interestingly, we've actually grown throughout the pandemic because there's been a huge demand for service apartments that we've found.
Can you give me an example of, who, for those who are listening who may not understand what that means? Like what is a service apartment, and how does that differ from a regular apartment?
Right. So at the very basic level, it's furnished apartments, but we're not just talking about like we go on Craigslist and we throw some furniture, and we have a whole set operational, standard of how we furnish the apartments, and we have partnerships with some of the kind of tech forward furniture companies that are able to come in and we take no liability. We don't own the furniture, and so that they're furnished. So obviously there's a premium on that. And then around that, we're able to offer all kinds of services, whether it's, dog walking services, cleaning services, laundry services, all of that stuff. That stuff is incremental dollars. It's not like the serious premiums. So the real premiums come from the service, the furnished side. But it sounds very easy, and there are lots of people who do furnished. But to actually create this whole model, we've brought on a great team that, they came from the corporate housing and in the hospitality world, but to be able to package it so that it fits in multifamily from a zoning perspective, from the lender's perspective, from all of those different perspectives.
Gotcha.
It takes a lot of work.
Right. No, it sounds like it. So it's a whole package. And so you're offering that on top of the regular units within a community.
Yep. Yeah. And it's a lower percentage of our overall apartments. And then there's also like a whole risk mitigation, because when we go in and we buy a property, it's upside. And then our downside is that worst comes to worst, we have just a regular apartment that we need to rent out.
Right.
So, yeah.
So obviously that goes into the model of in the underwriting. Give me a couple examples, because you did mention, leveraging technology and different aspects of that to run your communities. Give me a few examples, if you would, of because I know you obviously are involved in prop tech and using different platforms and different services. Maybe some of those examples that are things that at this point you really can't live without. Some of the communities you use.
Definitely. So I mean, the most basic example is obviously we have a community app, which every landlord today that, manages communities at scale should have, right? And so we have a community app that allows us to have a much more kind of personal relationship with our residents, and then our residents are able to communicate with one another. And that's everything from the practical stuff, like, hey guys, does anybody know who dropped their iPhone in the parking lot? Mm-hmm. To stuff like, somebody may be looking for a job. Can somebody help? Right. Is there childcare? All that type of stuff. And then we're able to actually get involved to a certain extent and try and help enhance those communities. And then throughout the pandemic, we already had all this infrastructure set up, right? So virtual tours was like a given already. We couldn't do live events, which is something we're very big on. So we did all of our events through kind of like this virtual world that we've built, which isn't, hopefully we can go back to doing the live events, but for the meantime, we've already been set up. So, a lot of stuff that is like today just given was stuff that we had been working on.
Awesome. That's incredible. So these apps that you guys create them, or it's kind of a third party platform that,
we only use third party. Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. We only use third party platforms because we believe that our real added value is our operational know-how, and so there's great technology companies like that gets into PropTech 360, but there's some great technology companies that we can partner with, and we have some technology experts who advise us to create a full stack. And what's just really important is that anybody we work with needs to have an open API, because we want to build, we want to use the best of all the third-party technologies that are out there.
That's super interesting. Yeah. That's incredible. Just so we have a little more context here, how many, I don't know if a number, doors, apartment complex, apartment unit communities, altogether are you guys managing?
Well, so, in Dallas, across 3 properties, there's 700 units. We sold a portfolio of properties that in Denver and some other deals that we've sold. So we're now looking to deploy more and to build out the portfolio both in Denver and some more in Dallas. And then we also have a service called Layers Lite. So Layers Lite is a service that we also are able to serve other owners and operators. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's a very plug-and-play tool where we just come in and we are able to offer the service department side of what we've built to these people. So we have one apartment building that we're launching in Manhattan this month.
Interesting.
There will be a more formal announcement, but we've already started. That will be, a Layers branded building basically. And then we also have some other large properties in the pipeline under the Layers brand that's coming into development over the next month or two.
Very cool. Yeah, very interesting. That's awesome. And so there's also this PropTech 360 thing that you guys got going. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. I stumbled across that from a colleague of mine a couple years back. And I gained a tremendous amount. You had people there from all over the world who were launching different types of products, different types of brands within PropTech. So whether from blockchain technology to record leasing information across, things like that, to, smart lock technologies, to, everything in between. Tell me a little bit about more, what drove you guys to start that?
Sure. No, definitely. So first of all, I think that's the first time you and I got to meet face to face. Basically how that came about is it was around 2017. And I had been going to a lot of PropTech events around the world just because we wanted to make sure as owners and operators that we knew what was going on, because we felt and still feel that there are going to be major technology shifts within the market, and so we want to know what's going on and to take part in that, and it's exciting. So going to London and New York and going to these different PropTech events, and then I came back home to where we live in Israel, and it was just kind of like, this is crazy. Like, there's so much technology innovations going on in Israel, and there are so many people in Israel that are involved in real estate in one form or another. And yet there has been no even mention it. In 2017, most people, even in the technology space, didn't even know what PropTech meant, right? In Israel specifically. So Avia, my wife, she comes from the urban planning world, and she just kind of said, this is crazy. And let's go for it. Let's see, let's invite some of our contacts and let's see what type of event we can put together. So she got in contact with all of the various, technology companies, both like the corporates and the startups in Israel and also abroad. And we invited them, and we invited some of our real estate contacts, and just crazy enough, people just came from, like you said, the first one was in 2018, and people came from all over the place, from Europe and Asia, obviously from America, because that's where we have a lot of contacts, Israel, obviously. And so that was pretty that was pretty wild. And then we did the next year, and then even more. I mean, we like doubled the amount of people, and all of a sudden more people are showing up from China and Singapore and other countries in Europe, Greece, all over the place. And it was just really exciting. And we planned on doing, that was in 2019. 2020, we planned on actually doing a very large one in Tel Aviv. Obviously, that didn't pan out, but we'll wait until hopefully 2021, 2022. We'll do another one. In the meantime, what we've been able to do is to create a lot of great relationships with these startups, and try and be helpful when we can, because a lot of times people have great ideas, but when they come to me and then I show it to my operations folks, they're like, "This is really cool, but it doesn't work besides X, Y, and Z." So we're just happy to be able to kind of be that sounding board. And then on the other hand, we have a small little angel investment side that we participate in some of these startups to try and help them grow and from an investment standpoint. And then we've also created partnerships with the startups, which plays into our kind of overall technology offering with layers.
Right. That's incredible, because there are so many, like you said, so many startups, so much technology coming out that are specifically geared for the real estate industry. And right. I mean, hundreds of them. And so you mentioned, these people coming from, from Europe and Asia and all over the place. And in Israel itself, there are a huge amount of startups specifically for the real estate industry. And I hear about more and more all the time, which I'm fascinated. And so to have kind of a community, which is what you've built, that people can share ideas and share, contacts as well. And to have that sounding board, to have that advisory of sorts where, helping people out to get to the next level, I think is extremely valuable. Something that can only grow because, both the industries, real estate is only going to continue to grow. Technology is going to continue to grow and integrate. Right. So, I think that's an incredible offering that you guys have there. Yeah.
We enjoy it, and hopefully it adds some value to some folks. So yeah.
No, it does. What would you say, in the growing, because this is a company that's been around for a long time. Like you said, HLC has been around for a long time, have owned a lot of properties, many different sectors of the real estate industry, and you've gone through a lot of cycles, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest challenge right now during this cycle currently?
Well, clearly for us, it's pricing on assets. The real estate world is specifically multifamily has become very, very expensive. So whereas last year, regardless of the pandemic, we had plans to purchase at least 1,000 units per year. It's purely a pricing issue where we have challenges justifying a lot of the pricing that's going on right now. And so we still feel that multifamily over the long term is a very strong asset, but we are much more conservative in terms of our projections, just because we operate our buildings. We've seen what's happened for many years. And so, we see lots of offerings of extremely high growth still, even with the pandemic. And so people may, justify very high prices. But I think that the biggest challenge is just the cap rate compression that's gone on over the last 3 to 4 years. That's really what makes it the main challenge.
So has that pushed you to explore different markets that you hadn't previously considered?
Well, yeah, and so that's why I say we haven't gotten into some of the newer ones that we've looked at, but there's obviously very attractive markets, and in a lot of ways the pandemic pushed a lot of market shifts that were already happening, right? So the whole Sun Belt, Arizona, there's lots of very attractive markets where there's still growth going on. And so we're definitely looking in there. It's still, even there though, interestingly, the cap rates are not always, it's hard to justify them. in a lot of circumstances. So, you know, what that has led us to lead to say, hey, how can we add value even with current reality? And so even though we started working on layers, you know, call it half a year to a year ago, it actually shows very, you know, it's very beneficial, because now when we go into a property, we don't necessarily buy a lot of the value add plays that are being pitched right now, but
Right.
it is the value add that we've created, and it took a significant investment. So, you know, lots of people can try and replicate it, but to actually do it and to execute on it takes a big investment. And so that's kind of more where we're looking to add our value right now at this
Interesting.
point.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really pushed you guys to be creative, to, you know, create value in a different way than I
Yeah.
guess maybe others, you know, traditionally consider what, you know, what they consider value add.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think that what's interesting is that everything that we're doing is trying to be uh, more consumer centric, which is something that didn't exist in real estate. And I mean that in two ways. One on layers, which is like our B2C operating, you know, model that we've discussed. But the other one is we've been able to leverage technology to build a platform called HLC Direct, which is our direct to consumer investment, you know, kind of platform where private investors can come and they can invest in our, you know, multi-generational institutional level deals. But technology has allowed that in a lot of ways, right? And so whereas, you know, traditionally there was always kind of like this, if you call, I don't know, you call it middle man or middle person between, you know, the people actually running the property and the people who wanted to invest passively in the property. So now we've been able to open up this whole new channel through HLC Direct, where people can be direct with us and we can have direct communication. And I think that also adds to a lot, you know, a lot more transparency. So a lot of those types of things are where I see the market shifting towards. It's happening in consumer goods. It's happening big time in media, right? With streaming and Netflix and so forth. And I think that that's what's happening in the real estate space. And so that's what really excites us and where we see the opportunity.
Wow. So is that like a crowdfunding type platform that you've created that
Well,
allows
we
people to
purposely don't call
directly
it that.
invest?
Right. So, I mean, it's kind of like on the back of crowdfunding, because crowdfunding, you know, there was still this kind of barrier between who the sponsor is and who the people crowdfunding were. So we call it
Right.
direct to consumer, because people are able to be direct with us, and we're able to be direct to our consumers. But yeah, in many ways, you're right. Like if you go on our website, we have HLC Direct, and that allows people to just immediately connect with us and to invest with us.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like an option that everyone who is a multifamily, you know,
Yeah.
operator should have these type of, you know, implementations
Yeah.
to just make it more user friendly.
Right.
Right.
Definitely. And the marketing and ad, I mean, the spend on it is like, you know, it's like peanuts compared to, you know, marketing that used to take place in the real estate business. So yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to jump right into the final four now, Daniel. So the first question I ask all my guests is what's the worst job that you ever had?
You know, when I think about that, it's really hard for me to say that, because, you know, I mean, every single job that I had, I just enjoyed, because I just enjoy good old hard work. So I really don't have a good answer. I mean, I worked as a ice cream server. And, you know, when I was a teenager, it was like I was getting a check and I was just happy to have the productive job, right? And then I was in the military, but then, you know, so obviously it was extremely challenging, but at the same time, it was extremely rewarding, right? And so I can't say that I had a worse job, because first of all, I believe everything is a stepping stone, right? And then the other hand is like, if you look at it with the outlook that I try and look at things, I mean, it's all rewarding. So I really can't say I had a worse job than the other. It was all just a stepping stone.
That's awesome. No, great answer. It's true. Everyone has a different perspective, and I love your perspective, because it definitely has that outlook where, sure, it was challenging, but it was rewarding. And there are things you learned from it and things you grew from it. Would you do it again today? No, probably not, right? Those things.
Yeah. Right.
But like you said, it's a process.
Right. I mean, I can say that, you know, when I was a teenager, I think I worked at a summer day camp for kids, and that was extremely challenging, right? So, but again, it was a stepping stone. Would I go back to doing that? No. But do I have a newfound respect for people who work with kids? Definitely, right?
Yeah, especially when you drop your own kids off to them.
That's sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. What's a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah, so a book that I really just like, and I go back to it, from time to time, is it's called Essentialism: the disciplined pursuit of doing less. And I just found it very valuable in terms of my own life. And the best example they use there is like, if you have a wardrobe and you have tons of clothing, then you never really appreciate and know which clothing to wear. But if you have like your favorite, call it 5 to 6 pairs of pants and your favorite 10 shirts, then it's like you love what you're wearing. And so that's like the basic. So you take that metaphor and you apply it to all of life.
Right.
And it's a powerful book.
That's great. I love that metaphor also. As a Hasidic Jew, I look in my wardrobe and I have a closet full of white shirts,
definitely,
black pants, right, and black coats. Like, it's really simple. I never have to think about what I'm wearing. Ever.
Yeah, well, that's what they say, that the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Steve Jobs of the world, that's why they wore jeans and a t-shirt or a turtleneck. And so you are way ahead of the game, right?
Right. People think we're hundreds of years in the past, right, and we're really way ahead of the game because we're able to focus on what's really important and not, put our mind energy in those type of things. So that's great. Essentialism. We'll put that in the show notes and definitely on the reader list. Third question is, what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
I think languages are very powerful, and I think that Chinese is going to be a very important language, whether I like it or not, to learn in the future. And so I would love at some point to learn Chinese, just purely because I think it's going to be very practical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. That's a good one. Good answer. Fourth and final question: what does success mean to you?
Yeah, it's such a good question, because in the business world, we talk so much about money, and at the end of the day, money is just a means to an end, right? So what is that end? So to me, success is any individual that is living a productive life that makes them happy and makes people around them happy. So it's not all about just somebody, oh, I'm happy, so I'm successful. It's more about, are you happy as a person, and are you able to make people around you happy as well?
Also, I think,
and without being happy yourself, it's very hard to make other people happy.
100%. And that's such a huge element that gets overlooked sometimes. People are just, the thing is success. And the thing, I want to be happy and me being happy. But if you realize that, well, first of all, you're 100% right that people around you won't be happy unless you're happy, or it's much harder. But I don't think a lot of people even think about that. So when you turn the focus really outside yourself, and I think even if you flip it, it's much easier to be happy when you make other people around you happy.
Sure. Yeah. No, 100%. So, Avia, my wife, she has this thing that I put on social media the other day, because it's so simple, but it all makes so much sense, where she always says, like, if somebody has a hard time smiling, or if somebody in the family, like one of, our kids or me have a hard time, or her sometimes. So she always says, just smile. It's free and it makes other people feel good, right? So it's like it's definitely like the little things that you can do that also affect other people to be happy are very powerful. So I think ultimately, if you're able to do that and to do it genuinely, that leads to success.
Awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today, Daniel. I appreciate you taking the time, and it's been a very rewarding conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. And keep on doing the great stuff you're doing, and we'll hopefully be in touch soon.
Sure. Where can our listeners find you or reach out to?
Sure. The best thing to do is just, if you go on our website, we have a contact form. And whether it's, somebody wants to contact about HLC Direct for investment, wants to contact about Layers Light to serve, if you're an owner and operator and you're interested in learning more about that model, or anything else, you can just go in the contact form and it will be forwarded to the right person. So
awesome. So we'll put that link in the show notes below. That's HLC Equity.com.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you again. And to all our listeners, remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.